Greetings, everyone. My name is Miguel Martignon, and I'm joined by my friend David. Say hello to the people.
Green everyone, I'm Akira 4 here.
Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We are over 60 episodes into this series, and I do not expect everybody to have to watch all 60 episodes to get an understanding of our little series. So what we're going to do is go over to our general text channel and talk about our decks of choice. But specifically, we're going to have the opposing player discuss their deck list. Now, one thing, you don't have to give a specific date, but what you will have to do is say around what era, so Duel Monsters GX, 5Ds, etc., this deck was played in. And we'll start with David commentating over my deck. So let's start with the first deck.
I think I can remember this. Anyway, here we go. The first deck that he ever made, and well,
I had the
yeah, it had
weakest
like
deck.
vanilla. Yeah, that's the weakest deck because it was a bunch of vanilla and stuff. But well, as you can see here, it kind of still it had some pretty strong cards, especially Skull Redbird
It has
and
one strong
Aquamador.
card in here. One card that's good. Pot of Greed. Everything else is bad here. What do you mean?
Hey, at the time, Skull Redbird was the highest attack point, so don't even
Okay,
start.
I'll give you that, sure. And I want to point out that in episode 1, David and I did not actually play against each other, so we don't know who would have won.
Yeah, that was back when we had more people on here, but now it's just us.
Yep. So the next one will be the real big shift to Yu-Gi-Oh, which is Chaos Control format. David, you're up.
Uh, okay, here was when Miguel started to actually. No, but before me and him, yeah, I won some and lost some, but then we all were equal level. Here, when the effect modes start coming in, is when Miguel starts showing he is superior in everything. Freaking and especially got cards like White Magical Hat, freaking Feather Duster, Chaos Sorcerer. Basically this was when things really started turning around for my works, especially with this card, Kaiku. Fuck you, Kaiku.
And this was back when I only had one of them. I ended up winning more copies because in our little draft series, it's the way it works is we open 24 booster packs or a set number of booster packs depending on which pack it is of a set, and we build from there. No, however,
Yeah.
we do have a reward system where every time somebody wins, they get to add one card to their collection of the cards that had come out at the time. This way, promos will not be skipped if somebody wants one.
Right.
Yes,
And to those who are wondering why we're having banned cards, another rule we have is that if cards that are banned, we can allow to use one.
it's traditional format.
Uh, yeah,
All right.
which is why we have broken cards like Pot and Graceful.
And then the next one we have is the last time to play before archetypes showed up. This is right before Glad Beast and Lightsworn, the end of
The
Golden
end of
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Golden Yu-Gi-Oh! Jinx.
Exactly. Anyways, your thoughts on this
Anyway,
one?
oh, this one was a real pain in my ass. I but I remember you got Vanity Queen over there, which an annoying card. You got the fucking Bane of my nightmares, Yadagarasu, and you have freaking Cyberstein.
Oh yeah, this was around the time where Yu-Gi-Oh sped up for the first time, and we had OTKs like crazy.
Cyberstein and Scientist, those were the worst.
Scientists just because it locked out the opponent's counterplay, and Stein because it just ended the game really quickly.
I actually was still able to find use for him back just before Link era. It's insane.
Oh, it's that scientist.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. If not for Sky Striker, I probably would still be playing Scientist because he's a one card U Link. I'm not kidding. But because I'm playing Sky Striker, I'm not playing that combo. Also, this Scientist will never be unbanned without the craziest errata of all time because this thing is ridiculously unfair and broken.
To be fair, we never know. We all thought Yada would never be banned, and look for it. And look, do you see a ban mark on it?
Here's the difference between that, David, is that the OCG, they'll have zero ban list tournaments. And I'm going to tell you right now, Yatagarasu has never made an appearance since it came back. Meanwhile, Scientists showed up in full power tier limit format.
Hmm.
So it's a bit different. And now we get the introduction of archetypes. So there were two archetypes you could play during this format that were relatively good, those being Gladiator Beast and Light Sworns. Other archetypes you could play includes Cyber Dragons or Heroes. And I
Right,
think
and
all of us
Miguel,
decided to play Glads, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I know I did. I'm pretty sure we're not there because Glad at the time they were actually pretty good.
very aggressive. And the
Yeah,
fact
and
that they all
they
spun themselves is consistent.
right, and it worked well with cards like Cyber Dragon and such.
Yep, Cyber Dragon to clean up boards, triple Raigeki, which I can't believe that's a thing.
Right.
Yep. And this
Moving
actually
on.
didn't go on for very long. This was only about 3 episodes, believe it or not.
Right, I think they didn't last long. Cause after that, that's when we started entering chaos format.
Well, dad format, technically. Chaos format was already a thing.
But that chaos whatever. Basically, yeah. If you have BLS or End Envoy, it's chaos to me.
Okay, sure.
But yeah. Anyway, that deck Dark Arm Dragon. This guy, the
Man.
whole easy to get things to Witch. The fact that the thing had low defense points.
There's a reason Witch of the Black Forest was banned during this time in the real game. This
Right.
interaction would not be okay back then.
And as you also notice, this is also when Synchro was new.
Yep. And I'm not gonna lie, early synchro pulls were really bad.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, Stardust was good, Thought Ruler was good, but then everything else was just sort of average. And it was what I did notice about this era was that our games were really short. Usually we'd end by turn 5. But then, of course, we then go to Blackwing, and I will say we were originally going to have 28 episodes of Blackwing, but we made the unilateral decision to just skip ahead to the next format because I don't think anybody wanted to play that many mirror matches.
Right, because Blackwing. Oh my God, this took over the series so much.
Yeah.
We
I
we all played Blackwing.
I will say that historically Blackwing was not the best deck of this era, but the problem is that when you give it broken cards like Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, Black Whirlwind isn't limited, and all the Blackwings are at 3, and you have Triple Allure, which didn't exist, this deck becomes absurd. Without these boosts that we get from doing this in retrospect, this deck would not have been the best deck. And also, this is where we finally get introduced to one of the most powerful cards of all time, Max C.
Oh yeah, this card. Maxi, it's broken when you use it right.
Yep. Now we have decks that I only used once, and there are two of them. First is the Dark World deck. Your thoughts?
I honestly expected Dark World to be used more, considering it's actually that it is one of pretty good archetype. Especially you had prepared with Morphing Jar and Chaos Cyber Jar.
Morphing Jar, Cyber Jar, Graceful Charity, and Card Destruction. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
this was the
all this
combo.
card.
But I realized that the reason this deck didn't perform as well as I thought it would have is because we didn't have the plays at this era were consistent enough that this deck was too slow. I could not get away with playing this for much longer than one episode, despite the fact that historically this was a really powerful deck.
Right.
And then we have
And
Meta Beat, which is what this is called in the OCG for some reason.
the deck that he used before he switched to one of the most annoying decks
I will
ever.
say
We'll
this:
talk,
the
we'll
episode
talk,
where
we'll talk about that when we get there.
played this deck, the one episode, you were saying this is why cards are fucking banned, Miguel.
I remember that, yeah.
uh, and honestly, there aren't that many ban cards in this deck now that I think about it.
No, only 3 and 2 limited.
I know, but that's the one where you screamed it, which is why it's funny to me.
Right.
Yep. And around that point, I finally got a Delinquent Duo. I finally won a copy. Uh, but I was going to
And
play this longer, and then I found out that Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy was coming out, so here's the next one.
yep. Freaking Dragon Rulers.
What can you
Oh
say
boy.
about this?
It is annoying. It is a pain. This deck was so freaking broken. Especially somebody tell me a broken card, like especially this one, Lion Darkness Dragon. Fuck you.
Lion Darkness Dragon? Oh man, 5 negates.
Which is unfair. And then you got a card like freaking Big Eye, who just was just unfair. Stardust kept being a pain because I couldn't get rid of it. And then oh my god, this one. Harold. I hate Harold so much.
Yep, it actually prevents you from activating Max C, meaning that the one episode where we were playing on Dueling Book was we made an illegal play because you activated Max C while I had this on board.
Oh, well, this is why we do next time because automatic. We don't know,
Yeah,
so no room for human error.
there is no room for human error. Well, there's still play gameplay, but also Dimension Fusion. Your thoughts on this card?
Oh God,
It's so
I hate,
powerful.
I hate it.
Yep.
Anyway, next one. The one that what why Miguel what was Miguel smoking when he made this?
This deck is
Ah yes.
terrible. I don't know why I thought this deck was good.
Man, you still crushed me with that a couple of times.
I won one game with this deck, David, and then you proceeded to win the next two.
Still, you won.
Okay, I won an game, but it doesn't matter. Once you pulled out Pepe, it was wraps. And then we have
Right.
the failed tier 0 experiment. And like I call it the failed tier 0 experiment because I realized that the reason Zoo was so broken was because a lot of cards are banned.
Yeah. Oh my God, you Zodiacs. Oh God,
Look at how many hand traps I was playing.
so many. But then I mean, but we'll talk about hand trap when we get to my deck. But that's much later.
Yep. So what'd you think of Zoo?
Anyways, oh I fucking hate it.
Even
Like
though it only won two rounds and it lost three.
it was a huge pain.
The
No
problem with
wonder this
Zoo,
deck was banned.
the problem with Zoo is that it's too consistent. Any Zoo is full combo. That's the part that's insane to me. And then the current deck that I'm playing.
Ah, fucking Sky Strikers.
We
You
all,
think to those who are dumb enough to think a deck that with only one actual useful monster on field in the main deck is bad. No, no, you're wrong. This card is the Ray. She's the key to everything. She's the key to hell. She is the key to unlimited levels of pain and destruction to all. Oh
okay.
God.
Okay. Well, that's my deck's history. Now let's go to David's deck history. And
No, I think no, this one is not in order because I could not tell which one I did and where.
David
So
doesn't remember the
and,
order he played his decks.
and I changed my deck so many much. Like I'm not like I look through my decks. I don't know how to end. I don't have any with vanilla monsters. I change it so much with them all the time.
Yeah. So here's the Charmer deck, and honestly, this was a cool deck. I love this deck so much. Oh my goodness. I have the
Oh
Charmers
yeah,
in my wallet, bro. I
this
have
was
all of them
this
in my
was
wallet.
back. It was back when we did that one Charmer duel.
Yep.
But I remember a lot because it was one time I got Neptune, which freaking still remains one of my favorite cards.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, but the
And
Charmers are found pretty good. They were okay to use.
Charmers were an interesting archetype because they're one of the few archetypes to have access to the strongest summoning mechanic in the game, which is summon from deck without starting a chain. Meaning that if you're in a tournament and your opponent just says, okay, so you just start playing, and then in the middle of their combo, they'll just pick up their deck, put this, and then say attempt to summon. I gotta
Right.
tell you, it's so awkward in an actual event if you ever see someone do it, but that is the correct procedure. Although I should note that if you side one out and you forget that you sided it out and you picked up your deck to look for it, you get a game loss.
Uh-huh.
Also, this was early on when for some weird reason people were picking how many cards to side. As in, some people were on the theories like, "Oh, only gonna side 4 cards," or "I'm gonna side 9 cards." I never understood that. In fact, if you look back to even my very first deck, I carved that out. Okay, not counting my very first deck, every deck that I've played has had a full side of 15 because I knew that somehow a situation could arise where I'd be in trouble and if I didn't have a set card. But David and a lot of the other participants were debating how many cards to side, and I just always found that weird. And looking on to his next deck, his dad deck, because I gotta say everybody was pilled out that dad was the best card.
Actually, wow, yeah, you can call him my dad. Taught that to me. This was my cybernetic evolution because here's the thing, people. Before we started recording these, Miguel and I used to do these drafts a while back before we started over. And Cybers, oh, Cyber Dragon was the one that I used so much. It won me so many duels.
Actually, if you guys want to watch, that we recorded one duel of that old draft series, and that duel was recorded during my Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke. In fact, in that episode, I'm playing the Nuzlocke and playing against you, David, at the same time. If you go watch it.
Okay, so we go. I'll do it.
Okay, sure, that's fine. Painful for sure, but nonetheless, it's fine.
I'll have to find that later. But point being, Cyber Dragon, it was my key to victory. It was my everything, and then you banned him.
Hey, it was a unanimous decision from.
Not
Okay,
unanimous. I didn't agree
okay,
to
it
it.
was an almost unanimous decision because the person who shall not be named and Matthew, all three of us said we're banning Cyber Dragon.
But you all suck. I had everything. I had Cyber Dragon, I had Cyber Phoenix, King of the Swamp. It had everything. I had everything to get Chimera Tech Overload to win every single time, and you just had to kill it off.
I want to point out that because we did this with no ban list for this second draft series. No, for this is the third one actually, because the original one was just Matthew and myself. For that draft series, Cyber Dragon wasn't as powerful as it was in its in the one that you played. Because in the draft that you played when we used to ban cards, Cyber Dragon was just a problem. It was unstoppable completely.
Right, which is why I used it a lot. Which is why it was my king.
You're king.
And you,
Damn.
and you just had to assassinate him.
So the next thing we're looking at is David's weird Blackwing deck. I don't know how to explain this one. David, explain it.
Okay, to be honest, it was a long time. This was back when I made two different Blackwing decks. This one I kind of lost on where I went with when I was going with here. I was just trying to mix it up, not only using the Blackwing deck that everyone used, but also try to use my own unique one, which is why I had cards like freaking Roa here, and
Okay.
also Shiny Black Sea and Swift Scarecrow. Like who uses these? Who uses Swift Scarecrow?
Well, it was actually used in Dragon Ruler format because it was so easy to die in one turn in that format.
Then maybe I should have considered that.
Well, I mean, it's too late now, so Scarecrow has been power crept out of this game.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But then we
But
get
yeah, I
to
was. I
one
don't
of
know what's going with here.
one of the strongest decks in history,
Ah, here we go.
Draco Pal.
Performer Draco Pal. This one's funny. This was okay. Here's the thing. This again. I said it before in the previous episodes to those who haven't seen it, but well, but I have never ever touched pendulums. Like I fell off right after Zexo, and I came back during the middle of Link era. So pendulum is completely new to me. I don't even own a single physical pendulum card.
That means David skipped the entirety of 2018, meaning he didn't play FTK format, and honestly, good for him. That format was miserable.
And in this game, he was sharp from 3 draws, and he's still going to assemble the combo. So he was Toon Cannon Soldier, and now this is the combo game because he can distribute off the Mermaid, summon a Dark World, bounce for Grapher, and rinse and repeat.
And it looks like Matthew's acknowledging that. So Jesse, just showing and offering the handshake, and there it is.
Yeah, and definitely not.
Ah.
But during the whole draft, I definitely learned why pendulum was so broken. When this deck was proof of it. It was fun to use. It was fun to exploit.
Oh yeah, I know. I was in Shatters until Zoo came out.
Yeah, you killed me there.
Okay, to be fair, what the thing
Oh.
about Zodiac is that it really was just way stronger than anything at the time. I don't think any set of card competes with Zoo from prior to Zoo format. You could make the argument that Paleozoic does and that Minerva Sworn did, but it's not the same. Then we get to one of the coolest decks, his Fabled deck.
Ah, yes. So back when we were doing all Black Wings.
No, this was in Ruler. This was in ruler.
No. What?
Yeah, you
The
played this
first-
deck during ruler format.
First
Because
one I used it.
you were
First one
switching
I
your
used
decks
it against.
constantly. The first time you
Oh
played
yeah.
that deck was when I pulled out the counter fairy. So this one here for my audience. That's when he first
Okay.
pulled it off. And then he kept this through most of ruler format.
Okay. Yeah. The point is, back at the time, I was looking through old YouTubers for some advice. And I remember one of my most popular one, of my favorite ones, X Stevens. He did a video involving Fabled against Blackwing, and I saw how broken these guys could be done right. So I figured I looked through my collection, see what I had, and saw I had enough to make a Fabled deck, and made this,
I
and
won't,
it worked out pretty well.
it's a really good deck, although I will say that it does have a bit of an issue with its ceiling. It's not too dangerous, assuming you don't open Painful Choice. If you open Painful Choice, it's game over.
I mean, not angry. Painful choice only. They don't activate painful choice. Only or to discard it from the hand, not the deck.
Well, yeah, but what I'm pointing out is that it gave you setup, and because you had setup, you had resources in the grind game.
Oh yeah, especially with like I remember back one of the videos of yours that I keep watching is you against Sprayboard Unicorn.
Oh, you go back to rewatch that episode?
Yeah, that's my favorite one. The fact how you call Unicorn so broken.
Fable Unicorn's insane.
Yes, it is. Because it in the right circumstances, Unicorn is.
Well, yeah, Unicorn Lock was a meta threat at one point. So of course I did.
Yeah, and then both of this extra deck. I don't think I ever used. Did I ever use something in Mistform? I don't think I did.
Okay, what is your side deck about? Can you explain your side deck to me?
Okay, the extra Fable Raven, pretty obvious. C- Scores. I mean, just figure with Dragon Ruler, so always figure it'd be best to have something against it. Will take direct attack. Armory on, but just so I can have something besides another low level single mother I could summon. Same with Formula Synchrons, especially things I could draw another. Dark Mist. Oh, you see I have a lot of level 2s.
Yeah, but what is the utility there? That thing will never see the battle phase. That thing was gonna get popped way before you saw that.
Well, this is why I'm not good at citing. Anyway, Change of Heart, obvious, Bageki, obvious, Card Destruction, mega obvious.
Oh yeah, card destruction. That should be in the main deck. I don't know why you cited that.
Again, I am not good at citing. Anyway, my thoughts, I had an extra Bageki break in here. Then of course I got the standard bottomless torrential, and Dust Tornado really I only had Dust Tornado just to get in case for Unicorn. In case you
Right.
got less cards than I had to set something.
Right. Then we have into what I'm gonna call the greatest "What the hell are you thinking, David?" moment.
Ghost
What is
Trick.
this? Remember, we are in peak Dragon Ruler era when he started playing this. And this wasn't
And
early Dragon Rulers. No, this was after I kept winning enough cards to make the ruler deck even stronger. So my question here is, David, why?
look, dude, at the time Dragon Loop was kicking my ass. I had to keep looking up things that could beat it. And I looked up cards that we had at the time, and I figured was Ghost Trick good? Looked it up, thought it was, made a deck, didn't bother to learn how to use it.
That is true. What I noticed is that David, what he would do when he was testing was he would use his second account and just clone whatever deck I was playing at the time.
Yep,
Usually
still-
this one.
I still do that.
Usually it's this one though. And he would play against himself. This guy sees that he has a less than 30% win rate with this thing, and he says, you know what? I'm going to play this deck for that episode.
Because at the time I was running out of options.
Running out of options, you say. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and
Gladi-
here the next one.
Gladiator Beast. He actually played the Searcher. I didn't. Other than that, our decks are functionally the same. Oh, I guess he played the equip spells too, but I don't think there's much to talk about here, is there?
Not really.
Okay.
Same thing as I said with yours.
This was one of the coolest. See, this is what I mean back when I said that people were. Well, this was late hour, so this is just us, but there was this weird theory that you shouldn't always side 15 cards, and I don't know why that happened.
Weird.
Yeah, he played really poorly cropped hat for some reason, but that's besides the point. This deck is cool.
Hey,
This deck is
Hat.
a real
Yeah,
grind game. I will say
it
though
was.
that the problem with hat format, looking back, is that hat format was only possible because of two things. Number one, players lying about Sylvan, and two, everybody being, for some reason, what certain Yu-Gi-Oh content creator calls control build. Everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, I gotta play hat," or "Oh yeah, I gotta play Geargia, set 5 back row, grind game it out." When really, if you think back to early hat format and you look at it from the angle of hindsight, Infernity was the best deck. And it really did come to fruition during Worlds where some guy brought Infernity and just swept everybody.
Right.
What did you think of Hat?
For the most part, while it was short lived for me. I figured it was pretty good.
All right. And then we have
Anyway,
easily
this
the coolest deck David ever played.
the one that I was excited to use, but I made the mistake of constantly testing it against him. That was the biggest mistake I ever made.
Yeah, David kept giving me free practice in between rounds, so I knew what to do.
Yeah, and anyway, Lightthorn Dragon Ruler. This was a deck. Well, Lightthorn Dragon Ruler, but mostly just Lightthorn Dragon in general. This deck. Oh, I freaking love this deck. It was really good. Especially because I used had some of my favorite cards. The Eclipse Wyvern. Hands down, this card is amazing.
But there's a reason it's banned, because it's too broken.
Right.
Yeah. Soul Charge. I can't believe that we haven't taken advantage of Soul Charge when historically this card was insane. Then we have an interesting choice. When we were playing Blackwing format, I think David said, "You know what? Damn Blackwings. I'm not playing Blackwings again. I hate the mirror match. Here's Nordics."
But yeah, here's the thing. Nordics. Well, Nordics is. I was introduced to Nordics actually when Miguel gave me a Nordic Link deck to use, and back then it was really good.
Yeah, he got to play
But
in the high school. And I gotta say, the high school meta is different from the real world meta. The high school
oh, hands
meta
down.
felt fair, with two
And
exceptions.
anyways, when we got to Nordic during the Synchro era, I had to make do with what I can since I couldn't since I didn't have the Link monster. So I made do with what I can, especially since I didn't have much for searching, which is why Giant Rat is here. But it turned out fine, but I don't think I won anything with it, did I?
No, but the problem is because Blackwing was just too consistent. It was too strong for our little format.
Right. And next to that, and
This
well,
was the
the
original dad dot deck.
like I said, these decks are kind of out of order, so
Yeah,
bear
that
with me,
dot
people.
deck was nuts deck though. Unbelievable.
This one I remember well. I used this one I remember one of the best combos I ever did against you. But you
Sidra.
had but one,
Sidra
but no,
Cyberstein. GG.
no, not that. You had Witch on the field. So what I did, I special Cyber Dragon, and then I tributed for Monarch just to banish your Witch.
Oh right, Caius. And then that burned me, and then I took 34.
Yeah, I have to remember that one. That's one of the best combos I ever made.
That was one of the coolest episodes. Well, I mean, I will say that I just have a soft spot for dad era Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, fun fact, Dark Arm Dragon historically almost made me quit the game. But then I realized, nah, this is fun. uh, do you know how much a Dark Arm used to cost back in the day, David?
I'm gonna guess say around 70.
$350.
Holy fuck!
Yep. This was one of the most expensive formats. I mean, Crush Card Virus here, I think it was like $1,000 back in the day. I remember Crush Card being stupid expensive a long time ago. I never owned one, by the way, just so you guys know. But I remember that thing was crazy. If this was historic, this is a money deck right here. This is a real money deck.
Right. Anyway,
Then we have his other
next one.
Blackwing deck. I'm gonna go back to the other one. Just I want to say, this is a more cookie cutter list. And I gotta say, Blackwing
Right.
format. I love Blackwing format. We did not need to play that many rounds of it.
No, we did not, but we just did for some reason.
Now on to one of David's strongest decks. Explain
My
your theory to us,
the
David.
my most favorite deck. Okay, so this was back. This was during the Zodiac time, where I kept getting destroyed over and over and over again because freaking Zodiac were the worst. I had to come up with my own deck, something else. So I looked through everything that was available, looked through everything, and that's when I saw. That's when I going to a collection. I noticed there were shadows available, and then something clicked in my mind. I remember like an archetype at the time that was used an archetype that I made recently, like a couple of years ago, like Think 2, was invoked with an invoked shadow deck. Now, obviously, I couldn't use some of those cards now because it didn't exist, but I knew that Alistair was out at the time, so I searched through hoping I had everything I did, and sure enough, I did. I had Alistair the Invoker, I had Invocation, I had Magical Meltdown. They were all I needed. So I made the right choice of going through over and over, getting the right shadow, looking through other Yu-Gi-Oh that other videos about how invoke shadows work, how to play them optimally. And all in all, it led to this 60 card monstrosity,
And I
and
lost 3 times to it.
it is fantastic. Holy, I'm just saying. Of all the archetypes I've ever played, even Nordics, which used to be my favorite, right now my favorite archetype is without a doubt Invoked Shadows.
Oh yeah.
I I am hoping that once we get to format 5, where where we can where we can don't have to rely on Link to summon multiple extra decks, I'm able to play this deck again.
Oh right. I should probably tell the audience that until we get to, I think it's Eternity Code, we're gonna be in Master Rule 4 because we are playing with the historic Master Rules.